tiring, but depends. I guess everyone must have taken 12 noon to be the right time.
Could be. No, but the main thing was that for me, it was a very late night, because after the session, then I went and did the social media posts and replied to people. So it was quite a long thing.
Yeah, I understand what you said. Yeah.
But tell me, Elena, this picture, that the picture there is the Alexander's picture on your.
Там картинка Александры на твоем чате.
Yeah, we have one account. We have one account in Zoom with Alexander.
Very nice. So Alexander was saying he's very busy today because there is some special mediation kind of I don't know, some events happening in Kazakhstan.
Yes, today he speaking in conference in Kazakhstan.
Okay, but Irina, what you have to do is don't help her too much. Also, she knows how to speak. She knows how to speak. It's just that she doesn't try hard. She has to try hard. No, not that you have to do.
I think now I'm here, she feels more confident, so I can just sit here. That's my job. I'll just be here, so she feels more confident.
And at the end of the whole thing, you are also going to become passionate about mediation. That is what we want.
I'll try.
So basically, opening the whole idea of today's discussion initially was that the theme of the symposium is for us to discuss how is mediation part of culture in the world, which means in every part of the world. So everyone will talk about their own countries and how mediation has been practiced, is being practiced in their countries. But the important thing which I said yesterday was that we have to be able to distinguish between arbitration and mediation, because there is a lot of confusion all over the world. So we have to clear that confusion, that even in our culture, there are a lot of situations where it is arbitration, but people think it's mediation. So Irina, just translate that while Giovanni and Isaac are in. I'll also fill them in. You want to tell her? Yeah, just. So Isaac, you want to put your video on? Hi, Giovanni.
Hello, Vikram. It's early here. Yeah, I want my video to be off for some time.
Why? You're not dressed properly?
No, I'm not dressed properly.
But the one standard procedure is that you have to write your country in front of your name.
Okay, I'll do that. It's 5:36 a.m. here.
No, not the time. The time we don't want to know. We want to know your country, and I'll write it. I'll write it today, right now. But we'll want you to do it. Okay. So basically, Giovanni, if you don't want, you can keep yourself unmuted. They're not a problem. I mean, this is just a discussion between us. So I started off the discussion just by saying that we have to be looking at the theme of the symposium. And we are going to be talking about mediation as part of our culture and traditions in the world in various countries, and being very clear about distinguishing mediation from arbitration, because there is a lot of confusion all over the world on this. And a lot of people, I spoke about it yesterday also, a lot of people are talking about certain processes which are actually mediation, arbitration, but they say it is mediation. I was giving two examples, of course, one from India, the concept of the panchayat, and that is something which we have to be very clear that they do give a decision. And that goes against the whole concept of mediation. And then in
in fact, sorry to interrupt here, Vikram.
Please.
Sorry.
No problem.
But I just wanted to share this with you, that in my presentation on the 19th, I want to make a very, I'm focusing on clarifying that aspect, that panchayat, because everyone has talked about panchayat being the traditional mediation format in India. I strongly believe it is not. And I'm taking that entire presentation to clarify that doubt, why panchayat is not the in the real sense of mediation, it is an extension of the judiciary, not mediation in any form. I mean, inherently, it is not mediation.
Absolutely. And this is, I'm telling you, a confusion which is not just an Indian perspective. Because I was telling you about Kazakhstan, that when I spoke to, I know it was a very short conversation that Alexander and me had. And in that, I said, let us just quickly have a look at the situation in Kazakhstan. What is it on Google that we have? So very quick Google search showed me some very large organization in the US, which is of course promoting mediation. And it says that this process called BIYS, so this institution, you let's call them an institution, BIYS does mediation. So I asked him, and he said that B is not mediation, this is a Sharia court. So can you imagine the kind of confusion that's been created all over the world on this issue? And we have to be able to clarify it as soon as possible, because if people like I'm saying, that we have to take mediation down to every village. And if we tell them about a process which they understand as arbitration, and we say this is mediation, then the whole confusion will stay. Hi, Raza.
Hello, Sir Vikram Singh. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Well, please, this sir is not going to happen. It's going to be Vikram and nothing else. But I'm going to write I'm going to just write your country with you with front of your name. So
Okay,
we started.
I'll
repeat. I mean, what we were just discussing, and because of course you missed out, and of course it's been a late night yesterday, for maybe a late session. So definitely you guys must have had too much of the whole mediation thing. But the fact is that we're again talking about the theme, and being able to explain this arbitration mediation definition, the difference which is a confusion everywhere. We must bring it out in our sessions, in our discussions, because that confusion has to be cleared out. Because if we are promoting mediation in every corner of the world, and we have to reach the remotest part because of access to justice might not be there, but mediation has been a process which has been used for centuries. And if they can start using that, and they can move away from this adversarial method of resolving disputes which we've got into for whatever reason, let's also discuss that part, that why have we become so adversarial? That whole collaborative approach we should have had, when did it change? Or did it actually change? Or were we also adversarial? We were also collaborative? So let's discuss both aspects of it, and let's go back, and if we can find a point where we changed and why we changed, then we can from there take it forward as to what is it that we have to explain to people, where we have to change the culture. Because finally it's a culture of mediation, the culture of peace, which has to start from grassroots. And what we have to look around us is that we have so many young people in India. Let's say we have a very young population. So today in schools, we have 250 million children in schools. So if we can reach 250 million, let's go slowly. We have time. I mean, it's not that we have to change the world in one day. So if 250 million children we can reach, and those 250 million come into society as what? Politicians, diplomats, as bureaucrats in workplaces and communities, if they bring with them a culture of mediation, then we can start changing society. They can start changing things while they're in school also. They can influence their families, their communities at that level also. So we have to take it there, and that collaborative approach to resolving disputes, we must, whatever way we start there, if we have to, but in communities also. So let's put that across. And in each country, what has been the situation? What is the situation right now in terms of adversarial aspect of dispute resolution? So what I'll do is just let me put the theme out in front, because there will be people who might watch it and they might not have it in front of them. So this is what it is, that definition, because now we have a definition which is universal because of the fact that UN Convention is out there, although it deals with international commercial mediation, but the definition is out there. So if that definition is understood by people as a broad, first of all, it's so broad, it is very well put, that a process irrespective of the expression used, because there is a lot of confusion that people are creating all over the world. Mediation, conciliation, potato, and they keep talking about that, rather than talking about the process. And so it's good clarification that the UNCITRAL, or the convention has done, because UNCITRAL has taken an approach now. Earlier, from their end, they started using the word conciliation. I mean, this is long time back. Even in India in 1996, we got a law on conciliation. So we took it from the UNCITRAL model law. So now UNCITRAL has clarified in their model law, the new model law that they've come out with on mediation. They said we were using conciliation earlier. Now we're using mediation. They're both the same thing. So that is why this irrespective of the expression used is very important. And on the base or the basis of in which the process is carried out, which basically means it's a flexible process, the way people have to do it. Because again, there is a lot of confusion that people are creating. Facilitative, evaluative, transformative, mediation. Everything is mediation. You practice it the way you want. It doesn't change the character of it. So that aspect comes out. Now important and simple, whereby parties attempt to reach an amicable settlement of the dispute with the assistance of a third person or persons lacking the authority to impose a solution upon the parties to the dispute. So important first, there can be one person or more than one person, so co-mediation or one mediator. Lacking the authority to impose a solution upon the parties is important. So we have to bring this out very clearly, that where the process, there is a part of having the authority. Now the point is, even in arbitration, the arbitrators should be looking at mediation as an option and seeing whether a settlement can come through. But UNCITRAL again has clarified or put in their model law that an arbitrator should not be a mediator. Because first of all, the arbitrator will become party to a lot of confidential information, which might go against the parties in the arbitration. So that is why, lacking the authority to impose a solution, we should also look at it from that perspective. So a person who has that authority should stay away from the mediation process, is what I say. And this is a pure mediator doing its mediation. So then, of course, the theme of this has been part of our culture and traditions, bring that out part of our cultural heritage. So now this is what I'm saying, that people around the world may not be familiar with the word mediation, because it is, I mean, it's just a word that is being used around, and it is in certain circles that this whole discussion on mediation happens. But the process has to be practiced in every part, in every corner of the world. So that word should not be at all an issue at all. And we have to just bring out the process. And the process is very well put in that definition. We just have to take that process and the definition out there. So this is a process which has been used, which I've been saying that the collaborative approach has been part of the way families and communities resolve disputes. And we have to look at indigenous communities, business communities. It is all there. And a lot of examples will come out, if you will, as we go along, about business communities doing it. Where yesterday, only after the session that we had, we were having a discussion. So Gunasilan, who's from India, who was there, and he was talking about a certain business community in southern part of India who have been using it for such a long time. They've been using mediation in their own circle of theirs. They have to do that first. So that part we can bring out. So as I say, we have to go back to our roots, move away from an adversarial approach to collaborative approach. So this is what we're going to be doing, discussing the ways that mediation has and is being practiced around the world. We are going to spread awareness about mediation. And that is part of our culture and tradition, and has worked for us for centuries. It can work for us today. And this is not limited to disputes within families or just communities and all. It is the way disputes are there between countries also, and larger disputes within countries. So we have to be able to, if we can create that culture and we can bring that out as we go along in the world. Yeah, like I said, if we start young and we create that culture in them, so they are the ones who are going to be out there, who are out there. I mean, these are children who go out. People in communities are who are part of communities, people in businesses, people who are doing various kinds of work in various workplaces. They are bureaucrats, they are diplomats, they are politicians. Everyone is part of that. So if that culture is there, they'll take it in their work everywhere. So once they have to taste the whole concept that mediation works, and once that clicks, that will go in every aspect of their transactions, their relationships, everywhere. So it is from that end, I think we have a much larger duty as mediators to bring it out. Now, please, you people take it forward. Giovanni, what would you like to say? I think you'll have to unmute yourself. Just one sec. If you just press the button, you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
You told three things are very important. First of all, people must understand and must know mediation, and this is very difficult. Second, too many speak of evaluative, transformative, evaluative mediation. Everything is mediation, that's the way. And third things, politicians. Why people do not use mediation? Why do they not know it? Because it's usually, sure, it's in our culture, in our own culture, we used it for centuries and centuries. But now, with the modern society, the liquid society, there are no more point of references where to go and just to ask a counsel and just to please help me how to solve this problem. How it was in old societies. There were the elders, there were the priests, there were the head of the army, and they could help people just to solve problems. With the affluent society, all this has been disrupted. And so situations are very much more complicated because the relationships are much more technical. And many times you need very deep knowledge of a certain question. For example, how to build a house, how to write a contract. And so you need technical assistance, and therefore you need a technical person just to try to solve your problem. The challenge now is how to merge technical knowledge with the old culture, with how we solve the problems in this modern society. And first of all, knowledge training.
Okay, perfect. But all this, you did a lot of research and your paper was very, you had a lot of details. So one important thing I felt was that over time, where did that change happen? And why did that change happen? I think you'll have to also bring that out if you can. Why did we move away from a collaborative approach? Or did both of them were parallel moving together, the adversarial and the collaborative, and the adversarial took over? So I think that aspect also has to be brought in. Yes, Stefan? It's an introductory session. Of course, we're going to go through your presentation, so you don't have to tell us everything right now.
No, I was listening, and good morning, everybody. Nice to see you again. Yeah.
Gordon.
Yeah, I just logged in, and I was following just the last words, and your question: when did we leave to go to adversarial and not collaborative anymore? Of course, we evolved as human beings, and we know more, and knowledge is a source for us. And I've been taught in Western society, you have to become a specialist. A specialist is the big word, but this doesn't guarantee you. The more you become specialist, you become more focused on a specific thing, and you're not a generalist anymore. And we start to judge. The problem is always the mind. Is that, wow, specialist is the new thing to do, and which is understandable because you cannot know everything. And there is nobody who knows everything. So that's why for progress, we became specialists in certain things. The problem is, of course, who is the one who is going to be the leader? And even there is evolution in humanity from being a boss to real leadership. Because if you have all specialists, you need leaders who are servant leaders, not bosses. But that's anyway, that's just a thought. It's interesting. It's a very interesting conversation. Yeah.
Thank you for all of you to be part of it. But please put on your videos. Let us see you people. I know it might be early in the morning for some of you, so I can understand you might not be dressed for it. So Prabhat, you want to take it forward? But you'll have to unmute yourself. Lip reading is not going to happen here.
Yeah. I mean, I was I am, as I develop my presentation, which is scheduled on 19. I recognize there are two clear aspects. One is that mediation as a traditional practice has been part of every society, every culture around the world. That's very clear. Because until a legal system sort of intervened to address disputes and resolve them, mediation was the usual practice. Now, there are two things that happened. One is that mediation existed as a voluntary pro bono work. Now, as I'm sure that there was a time when the practice of medicine was also voluntary as a social cause, helping people, not really charging. In fact, there are several medical practitioners, even today in India, who would say, well, whatever you feel like, you can put it in the kitty, right? So that's still a pro bono approach. So that system, when it is pro bono, the responsibility seems to be a little less from the point of view of the user. In today's situation, when every profession is a commercial service, so that may have caused the profession to lose out in its sense of responsibility and also the dignity that was attached to it. The legal system seems to have come out because, in an industrialized world, everyone wanted everything very arithmetically driven, very mathematically driven. So there were the laws, when they were made into sections and subsections and laws and bylaws, that became very, so once I know this definition, I can very easily resolve the dispute. But that is simply, that's a methodology that intervened at a time when traditional mediation was going through its own challenges, possibly. I'm saying possibly because I really don't know I haven't done any research on that, and nor do I find much of paper on that. But I see two things happening. One is the traditional mediation losing out on its essential values, and at the same time, structured legal interventions to resolve disputes getting more and more concrete. But then now is a time when people are recognizing that litigation and legal processes are not joining up the broken bonds and broken relationships. To give an example, a contractor and a vendor may have lost out on the relationship because there was a dispute and it was legally resolved. One party was considered to be the winner, the other party lost out, and culturally, the other party felt deprived and they said, "Two hoots to you, I'll find another contractor, but I will never come to you because you took a legal course and I suffered so much. I'm not going to work with you." So here comes mediation, which says, listen, you got some strengths, this person has got some strengths. There is some dispute that has caused all this rift and conflict. Let's look at it from that viewpoint, resolve it so that you all can go back and work together. You may work together, may not work together, but at least mediation takes you to the point where it says, now you have the freedom to work again. So that's miles ahead of a judicially resolved conflict. That's what I feel.
But Prabhat, the main thing is you have some time before your session. Please do your research. There is lots more that I'm sure you'll be able to bring out. The important thing, the way I look at it, is that mediators are first of all special people. So they have a certain mindset. They might not be very commercial. So they, from their end, maybe in terms of valuing them, first of all, how do you value someone who settles your dispute? So they've been there in villages all over the world where people have gone to them and they know whom to go to. They know those people, they trust those people. So they're all out there and they know whom to go to. Now, how do you value them? If you don't value them and they don't get paid for what they do, then obviously they don't take it up as a profession. So we have to bring this out that, look, you are doing a very special thing for the world. For the world should know they should how to value them, and they should value them, and they should know that this should be their profession, because what they're doing for the world is amazing. I mean, they're actually settling people's disputes, and this is happening, I'm telling you, in every corner of the world. I mean, we'll bring it out, people will bring it out. So definitely it's going to come up. But look, let me just go to Elena. Elena, you was wanting, you go first. Raza, Isaac after that. Sarah after that. Yeah.
Thank
Elena.
you. Thank you. In our country, mediation is very young. 11 years ago, издали закон о медиации.
Okay, 11 years ago, a law was issued that mediation is now basically part of everything. And before, mediation just did not exist. So it's a very young, mediation is very young, and it's only 10 years old. A lot of people don't know about mediation in Russia. They don't understand what it is. And even more so, a lot of people are scared of mediation. And it's not just the people, also lawyers in courts are sort of very apprehensive of mediation because they don't understand it. What happens when we try to bring a mediator into court to help, sort of like, it's not arbitration, but when we're trying to get lawyers to rely on mediation more, they think it's some sort of move from the other side that they're being manipulated. They get very cautious and they ask for everything to be recorded. But then the problem is mediation also has to be confidential. So you can't really record it. And that's where the whole confusion happens. Also, lawyers, some of the lawyers are being trained in mediation as part of their study. But the problem with lawyers is that not to say anything bad about lawyers, but just mainly people who work in court, is they have very confrontational nature and they're always looking for a guilty part. Therefore, naturally, they're not probably the best to carry out mediation. And the last part I was meant to translate is that, and yeah, I think that's it, sorry.
But Elena, why don't you ask Elena that traditionally in Russia, has there been mediation as part of culture? Otherwise, this is the formal structure that the law and everything, but traditionally in society and all, has that been part of society?
Было ли в России такое, что медиация была как бы частью общества или культуры, неформальным или неформальным?
Yes. Ранее медиация, она вообще в традиции, в русской традиции.
Okay. In the past, mediation is actually part of Russian culture and Russian tradition.
Мы всегда обращались к сообществу, мы всегда обращались к третьему лицу.
Looking for someone to solve a problem, like a third party, even in a family conflict or conflict between, different social circles. Yeah, we're always looking for someone to help solve the problem in a peaceful way.
So she must bring that. She must bring this out in her presentation. She must bring this out because we have to tell people.
Yes, of course. Yes, I will be speak about this in my presentation.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay. So then, anything else you want to tell us? Yeah.
Yeah. So at the moment, so she's saying these days, сейчас.
На сегодняшний день эта культура конфликта утеряна.
Или культура медиации?
Нет, культура... на сегодняшний день, получается, у нас идет в обществе больше агрессии, больше конфронтации.
So these days, that good culture of conflict that has been created before, a culture of mediation is lost. So people are very confrontational. Now it's the culture of conflict. So it's, people start with conflict.
Люди боятся обмана.
People are really scared to be manipulated as well, and which is why they're really kind of scared of mediation.
И мне как медиатору приходится очень много работать.
And for Yelena as a mediator, it's very hard to work with a person because first you have to explain to them there's nothing terrible is happening and she's trying to help.
Над преодолением стереотипа.
So she just has to break the stereotype, and that takes a lot of time and energy before each mediation.
But she also has to bring out that how and when did we change? When did this culture
Вот он тоже
change towards?
35 раз задает вопросы всем, когда это поменялось, он может понять, когда это изменилось, что раньше это было нормально, в какой момент люди стали такими в России.
Мое мнение.
In her opinion,
масс-медиа на сегодняшний день транслирует агрессивное потребление.
It's all from media, mass media. They're always translating about sort of aggressive behavior or aggressive problem solving.
Об этом еще говорил Эрих Фром в 50-х годах.
Erich Fromm said in 50s that
в Америке.
In America, that's going to happen with the use of mass media. The society is going to become more aggressive.
Когда потребление и индивидуализм стало выше.
Yeah, when people were focused more on individual goals and on consumption rather than spirituality and collaboration.
Okay.
Все стали сосредотачиваться на своем эго.
Yeah, each person started to focus on what they need for themselves rather than
и забыли о том, что когда мы вместе, мы сильнее.
And they forgot that when we're together, we're stronger.
Okay, so basically that this whole structure of society changed over time and people became more individualistic and looking at only their interest, not the larger interest of the community and people around them, something like that. So we'll get to that. So her presentation will definitely be very interesting on this. So we can come back, but we to you. Let Raza is going to tell us something interesting. Yeah, Raza.
Okay. And the question is that why people are not using it in mediation more. I believe that the reason is that mediation is not known as something official, because when a conflict and a dispute is shaped, people are looking for force to resolve it. They're looking for something powerful, and mediation seems like a soft answer to this dispute. And most of the times when people go into disputes, they can find really amicable ways, because already the dispute has made the friendly kind of speak out of the space. That's why people go to the trial and they go to judges and lawyers. So the most important part, I believe, that if we want to say the world what mediation is and how it might work, is that we have to make it official. There must be mediation centers. And it must be exactly told where does mediation stands among trials, arbitration, and other ways of resolving the disputes. Because I believe mediation cannot solve every dispute, especially in heavy commercial contracts like oil and gas, because some of the disputes that arise from that, for example, the British Petroleum in the Mexico Ocean, that conflict with billions of dollars of damage, that could not be solved by mediation, because the level of the dispute is so much higher than the normal disputes every day. Unless mediation finds ways to prove that it is more successful than trials and judges. And mediation can only be used for more soft disputes, not every very difficult and complex disputes around the world. That must be told, that what is the realm of the mediation? What kind of disputes can mediation resolve better? These are the parts that must be told to the people. And mediation in my country, it has been traditionally from, as far as I know, from 2,500 years ago, that judges could be also mediators in specific disputes. If the dispute, for example, was between some aristocratic families in the royal court, king was known as the highest judge in the system of the Shahanshah of around 2,500 years ago. But he could also be known as the mediator between the families because of the authority of the families and the class that the families had. It could not come and rule things like a judge. And even in the provinces that were in the country, every leader of the province, they were also the great judge of the province, but they also could be used as mediators in more amicable disputes between the commanders, between the commercial merchants, and so on. But when the dispute goes to a higher level and it becomes harder, it cannot be resolved by mediation. This is the important part, I believe, and I'm going to talk about in my presentation, that mediation can answer some disputes better than the others. And that is the reason why that we have judges and we have the courts. We cannot leave the courts and say, let's fix everything and resolve everything by mediation. That can be done. But we must look at the subjects that can be resolved by mediation.
But Raza, you'll be very surprised that as you go along, the whole concept of what can be resolved by mediation keeps changing. I mean, high value disputes, some people used to say can't be resolved. So, but high value disputes have been resolved. Very high value disputes have been resolved by mediation. Dispute between states in a country, in our own country, there was a border dispute between states that went in for mediation. So there is, I mean, it's just the scale will keep increasing when at the smallest level, at, like I said, at the school level, when students take it up and communities take it up, the whole structure will keep, the whole concept will keep changing as we go along, because of the fact that people, first of all, have to believe that this is the way to resolve the dispute. Like you said, that judges will have to exist is because of the fact that people, a lot of, we had a discussion quite long back, we had a meeting of the Mediators Collective, we were discussing this aspect of why do people go for arbitration or litigation. One very interesting thing that came up is people don't want to take decisions on their own. They want to leave it on someone else to take it. So we have to change that aspect as a culture that has to change. And look, you don't need someone else to give you a decision. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. So if you are going to take responsibility, then why should there be a problem in a process where it is your process, it is the way you take it, it is your settlement, no one can impose something on you. So that is a mindset situation. Look, what they have to go back to the reason for this. When did we change this? I mean, was it, I don't know, I mean, let's not put it on colonialization. Did the colonies have changed their mindset over time because they were put into a certain adversarial system, because that is the way a colony had to be run? So you needed a position of authority, or even before that, when there were rulers. In today also we have rulers some places, so we can bring that out. So I mean, is there a part of a certain conditioning of society that you believe that you need someone else to take decisions for you? So we have to be, if we can, we have to break out of that. It's not going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but if we start the process, we start talking about it and start believing in it, I think we can move forward. And Prabhat, I'll just come to you later. Isaac is nodding his head, and I'm very happy that he's nodding his head. Please, Isaac, yours.
Thank you, Vikram. And I certainly agree with all the things that you've been saying, that it got to a point people became lazy and refused to take up responsibility in resolving their own issues and taking decisions for themselves and leaving others to take the decision for them. And that is true. If you look at even what the convention has captured as definition of mediation, which is very important, that a third party doesn't have the power to impose a decision on the party. So most people were doing mediation or doing certain processes and calling it mediation, which is certainly not mediation. So while the convention has given us a specific definition, I think that is a good point to start from. It will take some time, as you said, but we can achieve something. Because especially in Ghana here, when you come here and you mention ADR, for instance, a lot of people think about arbitration first before even mediation, because in 1965, when they were introducing our first acts to talk about ADR, they ignored mediation to the background and only concentrated on arbitration and customary arbitration, which is normally done at the palace. So mediation was left behind, which is something that has been part of our culture for so many years, but it was left behind and nobody talks about them. No education was done on it. So a lot of people didn't know about mediation, the existence of even mediation has even been part of our culture, and always leaving the issues for people to determine for us on how the resolution should be and all that. And also another point is the mediation has not been recognized so much because of the enforceability of the outcome of the process. A lot of people didn't know that maybe when I do mediation, what should be the enforcement process as arbitration has. So in 2010, when Ghana did an amendment to the act and did a new act, which talks about mediation, and mediation after the resolution has taken place, what should be the enforceability? It has the same value as arbitration. And even that, they are not even saying that mediation has this power after the resolution. They are linking it still with arbitration as having the same effect as an arbitration process, which is something that where it is good that this symposium is bringing out that yes, mediation is something that is good, and we must prioritize mediation in the activities that we do because it has been part of our culture, and it is something that will help us to build a collaborative society, a society that will live to think about one another, and also bring back the family ties that we have lost because we all left everything to litigation and arbitration, which is not really solving the problems that we have. Thank you, Vikram.
I think a few important things you talked about enforceability. Of course, enforceability as a contract is always there, any settlement agreement. And people are not going to stop getting into contracts because there's a process for enforceability. That's one part. So contracts are being signed all over the world all the time. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you spoke about your own country in terms of the law changing now. I am telling you, in India, we've had the law since 1996, where a settlement agreement is as good as a consent arbitral award, which is as good as a court decree. Since 1996, no one ever promoted it. No one ever spoke about it because there are vested interests also, where people, of course, do not want to talk about it because they've taken advantage of the litigation and everything. So that's one part of it. The other is the whole concept of a law like ours. I'm telling you, this is a law that's available to us. In a village, if a person sitting in a village can get a court decree, I mean, that changes everything for them. But do people want them to change? Or do they want them to stay within the system? So I think a lot of factors could lead to that. And that is why we have to reach out to people. And this is the idea of doing it, that we will take these videos, we'll put it out, let people watch it. I mean, let it be in any language. I mean, if Elena wants to speak in Russian, not a problem. People in Russia also have to know. So that's, the language should not be an issue. The main thing is we have to put this across, that it is something which can actually change the way you look at dispute resolution, and you can actually change the way you collaborate with each other, work with each other. So that's important. Namtran, please. The Vietnamese perspective.
Hi, everyone. Actually, from Vietnam, we have two mediators, and then both of them named Nam. So I am Nam Chun. I'm Dean of the Faculty of Law from the National Economic University. And then we have another younger colleague who is Tony Nguyen, and his first name is Nam. So I understood that Tony Nguyen is contracted with you to be the speaker. But today, because he is absent, so I'm willing to tell you something.
Pananda, yeah. You can also be a speaker. I have created enough slots because I told people, first of all, I was trying to balance it out between my golf and the symposium. Now for 2 days, I've given up golf. So okay. Not a problem. We'll pick a slot for you. 2 months of golf is a sacrifice. Please remember, everyone, it's a sacrifice I'm making for mediation, and a major one.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. First, I would like to keep you informed that in 2007, about 4 years ago, we have the 7th symposium of the APMF. So I think that some of you are familiar with the APMFs. That means the Asia Pacific Mediation Forum, right? And then the 7th APMF organized in Da Nang city at the same time with the the APEC leader of Asia Pacific event in Vietnam. So at that time, I was very honored to be involved in the what we call the organizing committee for that symposium. And then there are about over 150 participants from over the world. However, let me tell you that even Vietnam is left behind Russia. So when Elena and Irina told us that in Russia you have the tradition of mediation for 10 years, but I must be honest to tell you that Vietnam still are behind you, because we just recently we just have some what we call the legal framework for mediation. So that means in the same time with the APMF happened in Da Nang city, the government just issues one degree, we call it the degree on mediation, commercial mediation. So that means in Vietnam, when we talk about mediation, they talk about, they think about civil case, they think about the family case, right? They think about labor case, labor dispute, and the commercial case are that been very few and very limited in Vietnam. In 2009, that means about over 10 years ago, we in our Vietnam International Arbitration Center, we have only one. We had only one case, and then later on in 2016, that means about after 8 years, we have 2 cases. That means the number of cases in commercial mediation is very limited. And in 2019, the whole our center, we have only 5 cases. So that means you can observe that in Vietnam, probably we don't have a sufficient legal framework for mediation practice. However, things change. And then 2 years ago, we have the first mediation center in Vietnam. We call it the VMC. That means the Vietnam Mediation Center. And my center affiliated to the Vietnam International Arbitration Center. So that's why yesterday I already sent my messages to mediator Vikram Singh, and then to tell you that we are proud to be one of the first mediation center in Vietnam. And also,
but you have to also tell us that traditionally in Vietnamese society, in that aspect also you have to throw some light on that part, that traditionally there has been mediation, or has it not been? We don't know. I mean, that's, you have to bring that out. So has that been there?
Yeah, I think that in tradition, I think that Vietnam and India have something in common. That means you just said that in India, people take the advantages of litigation. So that's why in Vietnam, for the long time, the litigation comes to be the most popular one to settle the dispute. So that's why people don't have a good perception about mediation. So if we say no, that is not true. But however, the perception for mediation is very weak, and then we can call that. And in Vietnam, we for the long time we have the lack of consideration of mediation in our society.
So basically, if you, I mean, you can always be a speaker, and please do a little, get back into, go back into history or wherever it can, you can go into and find out, because like I don't know, because you didn't get that paper because you're not one of the speakers right now, but Giovanni has gone into history and he's gone to, I think, 12th century BC or something like that. And he's actually brought it out from there. So we can actually go there. So Elizabeth, I'll come to you after Sarah. Sarah is going to tell us first. Sarah, yes, the Kenyan experience.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's morning here in Mombasa, Kenya. And I think that the Kenyan mediation experience is interesting. And just listening to the conversation that has been on a little while ago about perhaps why people don't engage or take up mediation, and just also comparing, looking at, the family system and the education system. I think perhaps in many families, then we have, that giving of directives. So people are used to, being told what to do as opposed to perhaps, thinking for themselves and deciding for themselves. The same thing with, the education system. Then you have questions about whether other children and the students actually trained to be able to, think critically and be able to take up their own decisions and own their own decisions. So those are, I think, issues that come up. Generally speaking, I think Kenya is regarded as more or less a Christian nation, and so with reference to the Bible, then there is the aspect of being able to amicably solve issues around people or with people. So that perhaps I would say is perhaps in theory. I'm not very sure how practically Christians actually also do that, because we do have a lot of matters in court, and it is for that particular reason that actually then we have the court annexed mediation program that came up a few years ago, and that has also had its issues and its gains and its losses. So we do have the uptake. I would say the uptake has been progressive. Initially, there were issues of, perhaps lawyers are not very happy about it and all that, but now we've got, more lawyers trained in mediation, and more of them participating willingly and telling their clients about mediation. So that is a good thing. But the other thing that also does come up is, again, the issue of the value of mediation is, again, how much are people willing to pay for mediation? I think to a fairly large extent, I think the court mediation program is perhaps the big mediation program that is in the country. So in a way, the parties don't pay for it. So there is that aspect of the value, and would then people just want to go into mediation as a profession if the payment is it adequate to sustain you? That. So those are also things.
That's an very important part, because this has to be brought out also, that the aspect of creating a profession of something will only happen first people value it and pay those special people, because they're actually helping you resolve it. They're not helping you fight. So why are we willing to pay people who help us fight and not pay people who help us resolve? So, but you have your session in September. Please, on the traditional part, Isaac, you can also interact with Isaac, because he sent out that form. If you see what reactions he got to it, because he's wanting to get from the clans in Ghana and other parts of Africa. In each clan, what's the situation is. So there's lots of interesting things which can come out from Africa. So please, you have time. I mean, there's a lot of time in September. You're in September, so not a problem. So I'll just go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, yes, you want to tell us about something?
Hello to everyone. Is it normal? Do you hear me?
Yes, and the only answer can be yes, like I always say.
Difference. I'm sorry, I'm not brilliant in English, so it will be a really short speech. I think it was very interesting for me to hear all the speakers, and I agree with a lot of reasons which you tell about why mediation in, for example, in Russia today is not really well known and not work as well as we wish. I agree with Elena that today our communication is much more aggressive, and many people want to go to court to resolve their problems. And if I remember time when I was a student and we learn ancient historical time of Russia. So I remember that here also were persons, not mediators, of course, but not a judge, some neutral person which help to part of conflicts to communicate. And when here was some conflict, we go to another person and tell them that they must try to find an answer to the situation. But during the time, I think all the people, now we have a habit to go to some
Elizabeth, you can also,
yes?
if you want to speak in Russian, not a problem. Irina's there. She can always translate.
Oh, okay.
So whatever you're more comfortable with, we need lots of information from you. Yeah.
Thank you. Ирина, so в России в более древние времена также были, естественно, не медиаторы, но нейтральные такие лица, посредники, которые могли, если происходил какой-то конфликт, либо совершалось какое-то правонарушение, прийти к одной стороне, взять ее за руку и отвести к другой, сказать, чтобы они вместе сейчас нашли решение. То есть во многом на эту ситуацию влияло еще сообщество, потому что люди жили ближе друг к другу и влияли друг на друга.
Подождите, это перейду. So in Russia, in old times, we didn't have a formal mediation, but the way it worked was that people in the society had maybe some sort of elder or some person who had like a very good reputation, who they could go to and ask them to resolve a conflict. Or this person would go, if they see there's some conflict in a village or in a society, they will go to this one person, take their hand, take them to the other person and say, hey, now we have to solve this. Okay.
Но в дальнейшем, я думаю, у нас сказывалось то, что, во-первых, пошел уже разрыв вот этих социальных связей в обществе. Мы стали жить не настолько тесным кругом, стали переезжать для жизни в города с появлением цивилизации. И постепенно культура пришла к тому, что все конфликты, которые возникают, мы решаем путем силы. Не самостоятельно договариваемся, а обращаемся для этого в суд.
Okay, but then what happened is that actually the villages started growing and turning into cities, and the culture changed. So the people in villages were very close; they were helping each other to survive, sort of. And then in the end, it again became more individualistic and aggressive. And when there is a conflict, then people would start sort of when there is. Like people don't need each other anymore, so they can just look after themselves, and then they always resolve the conflict.
So that's a similar thing which is coming out from other places. So I think the way society changed, I think things changed. So Stefan, we can start your session in the next, if you don't mind, 5 minutes, because we have Evigne, however you pronounce it. So he can also give us a little bit. You're okay with that, Stefan? Stefan, you're okay with that? We'll start your session in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. I hope I don't get too influenced by listening to everybody.
No, you won't be. Because what I'm going to be doing, finishing this session, I actually stop the recording, end the meeting and start another one, because this whole thing has to go as one session, because I've realized if you have long sessions on YouTube, people don't end up watching them, and they think it's a 2-hour session or forget it. So 1-hour sessions is what I decided. But Elizabeth, you also have to be a speaker. We'll just talk about that. Yeah, Evigne, please. You want to tell us a little bit about the Russian experience?
Так. Ирина, Елизавета, вы поможете мне?
So Irina, what you've done for yourself now is you have to be in every session. Now every session there's a person from Russia. You have to be in it now. This is you've done to yourself.
This is my new job. Okay, I'll do my best.
Yes, you're doing a good job. Yeah, good. You're doing a very good job. Yeah, please.
Спасибо. Меня зовут Евгений Киселев. Я президент Союза профессиональных медиаторов M2B, Mediation to Business.
My name is Evgeny Kiselov, and I'm the president of the Union of Mediators, Association of Mediators in Russia.
Very nice.
Mediation to business, M2B.
So it's mediation in business, particularly in business.
Главная суть вот нашей организации и подхода к медиации.
The main goal of this his organization and approach to mediation
это стандартизация, обучение, стандартизация, проведение процедуры медиации, стандартизация документа оборота.
It's make it more standard. So they're trying to make the way mediation is handled more standard across different organizations.
И все наши выпускники, кто проходит обучение, они сдают экзамен, и они должны набрать 4,2 балла на экзамене для того, чтобы работать с людьми.
Okay, they teach mediation, and then all their students have to pass an exam, and then have to have 4.2 score of 4.2 out of 5 to pass the exam.
No, Irina, please ask him to tell us a little bit about how mediation has been practiced in Russia. If you can go back, if you can tell us a little bit about that, and if it's not being practiced, the reason for that, exactly what we just discussed.
Да.
Because I think
Евгений, он бы хотел спросить, что как бы, тема вот этой конференции — это как медиация началась в России. То есть как медиация началась в России, где она началась и в каком она сейчас как бы состоянии. Вы можете что-то по этому поводу сказать?
Началось это в 91 году, когда
Mediation started in 1991.
Когда была открыта российско-американская программа подготовки медиаторов.
When they opened a Russian-American program for teaching mediation.
Это было сделано на базе Санкт-Петербургского государственного университета.
It was done as part of St. Petersburg State University.
И с 96 года началась активная подготовка медиаторов в Петербургском госуниверситете.
From 96, they started teaching mediators preparing mediators in the State University in St. Petersburg. So it became part of the course. Part of the bachelor course.
But does he have any idea about the traditional Russian society? If there was...
Он говорит, что это очень интересно, но он бы хотел именно узнать про культуру и про русские традиции, то есть заходя, наверное, в более древние времена, как и даже сейчас, как именно медиация проявляется в культуре и в традициях.
Ну, считается, что первым медиатором у нас был Александр Меньшиков, это еще при Петре Первом.
He said that the first mediator was Alexander Menshikov, who also was in Peter the Great time. So he was assisting the Tsar of Russia in mediation.
Вообще у нас существует 4 основных модели медиации в России сейчас вот применяются.
At the moment, that Russian mediation has 4 different models or 4 different types.
Это американская модель медиации, которая на Гарвардской школе и близка к стандартам Цедра.
Which is from Harvard School.
И близка к стандартам Цедра она. CEDR.
Okay, and it's close to the standards of CDRR. I'm not sure what it is. Okay.
See, the CEDR is an organization. See, that's a UK-based organization. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Австрийская модель медиации, которая...
There's also Austrian model of mediation, which came from Austria.
Трансформативная медиация чешской модели.
Then also Czech model, so it came from Czech Republic.
И
the last one.
Восстановительная модель медиации тоже.
It's restorative mediation.
But tell me, Irina, how do you pronounce his name? How do you pronounce his name?
Evgeny.
Okay. So Evgeny has to, I mean, we'll tell him a little later, maybe about the fact, about the theme that we have, about how the definition of mediation is very broad in whatever way it's practiced, it won't matter. So we'll come to him later. Maybe if he wants to be a speaker, we can talk to him later about it, because we'll just start a session.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll tell him that he can talk about it at the conference if he wants to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Он говорит, спасибо большое, Евгений. Вы можете об этом более подробно рассказать на конференции. Он сейчас продолжит говорить с другими участниками.
Yeah. So if he can put his email address on the chat, I'll send him a.
Пришлите свой email, и он вам даст возможность, чтобы вы тоже могли выступить, если хотите.
Yeah.
Да, спасибо.
And he'll also can find the details on my website, mediatorvikram.com. He can go there.
Вы тоже можете найти его детали на сайте.
Yeah.
Да, спасибо.
Okay. So last word to Elena. She wanted the last word. So please, Elena, you want to say whatever, and then we'll finish this session and go to Stefan's session. Yeah.
Speaker Elena.
Okay, I'll say for Yelena here, so we prepared. So Yelena wanted to say that, Vikram, you said something very interesting in the beginning of this conference, which she wanted to sort of discuss a bit further. You did say that there's no different type of mediation, everything is mediation. And there are just different tools that mediation use, but people start, sort of separating different types and so on. And Yelena said that she really agrees with you on that everything is mediation. And it's more about the different tools that people use. At the moment, from her experience in Russia, we still sort of separate mediation into classic mediation and restorative mediation. I'll explain what it means. So classic mediation, they see as mediation between two people and a mediator. And the other type is mediation, it's more like a group mediation, so between different groups. But she thinks that, well, I guess the way she sees from her experience and the way she believes is that this mediation, we shouldn't separate like this, because those things have to work together, because mediation between two people always involves more than two people. So if we look at it as a whole and complete picture in a more universal way, that will have better results in mediation.
So tell her to keep this all for her presentation, because if she's going to tell us everything now, then what is she going to tell us in the presentation?
Okay.
So 19th, the 19th, you keep all this for the 19th, right? Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this meeting here, and please log in. You can log in immediately so that this session goes on to the YouTube by itself. So please log in as soon as this meeting ends. You can just log in right there. All right. Thank you very much. It was a very nice session and an introduction. I'm sorry, Prabhat, you wanted a last word? 1 minute? No? Okay. Okay. Thanks. So I'm just ending it here, and then we just start the session. Okay. Everyone's understood. Elena, you want to tell everyone? Our Russian friends?
Yes, thank you.
You can.
Sorry,
Yeah,
so can you just explain to me, so after the end of this session, they have to log on to YouTube?
No. I finished this meeting. I end it here. They log on to this same Zoom link again. They come back on the same Zoom link. They just log in again.
To continue?
Yeah. For the next session, they'll have to log in again.
Okay.
Just tell them.
Он сейчас закончит эту сессию, то есть выключиться, нужно взять ту же самую ссылку, по той же ссылке зайти на новую сессию.
Okay, just log in again. This meeting is going on. It's just have to break it in because it has to go as a separate video on YouTube.
Да, потому что у него там другой митинг, он должен закончить это, мы начнем другой и будем дальше там общаться.
Right? Okay. Thanks a lot, and just come back